into that spaciousness within the self. Just take a moment and allow the awareness to unhook itself from all of the things that are constantly moving in the world around us. The past and the future, thoughts, feelings, memories, emotions. The people around us. All of that is in a state of constant motion. But just unhook your awareness for a moment from all of that and just draw it inward. To a place within you that is still. And notice as you draw your awareness to that stillness within, that the stillness actually begins to expand. And you become aware of an expansiveness, a spaciousness within the self. Just allow yourself to drop into that expansive spaciousness. There will always be distractions. Sometimes the distractions will be sounds. Sometimes there'll be smells. Sometimes it'll be other sensations. Sometimes it may just be the constant monkey mind. But don't worry about them. Whatever form the distraction takes, let your response be the same, which is just to keep drawing the awareness inward. Yes, the outer world will do what the outer world does. The monkey mind will do what the monkey mind does. And you just keep drawing your awareness your attention, the power of your focus. Just keep drawing it inward. And notice how that inner spaciousness is filled with light. Just notice that. That as you drop into it, that you're dropping into a space of light within. Slowly bring the palms of your hands together at chest level and gently rub the palms of your hands together. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. And slowly open your eyes and lower your hands. Welcome. Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together and so beautiful to be back in Satsang after more than a month. We begin Satsang with a question that comes in from our global family joining us from all over the world via the power of the internet technology. So we start usually with a question that's come from them, and then we'll open it up to any question that anyone here has. I am struggling with my spiritual journey. Spiritual teachings say that I should not have ego and everything is done by Krishna. But when I am positive and I appreciate myself, I feel so happy. When I appreciate myself, does it mean that I'm boosting my ego? This has been asked by our sister Anita online. So there's different aspects to our spiritual journey. There's different layers to our spiritual journey. And it's really important not to think of them as beginner or intermediate or advanced, because it's so easy for our minds to do that to ourselves. Oh yeah, I'm only in the beginning stages, like I'm a horrible meditator, I've gotten nowhere. Or, oh yeah, I'm an advanced spiritual seeker. I'm on my last life, like I'm there. And I mention that in advance because what I'm going to say may sound like we're talking about levels, but they're not hierarchical. They're just different. So on what you could call the deepest and truest level, it's all being done by God. We are just an instrument in the hands of the divine. This is when we talk about divine will. Everything is just as the Creator has created. It's all the divine. And yes, we're told in the Bhagavad Gita Bhagawan Krishna makes it very clear. He says, the only way to break free from this cycle of birth and death, this cycle of karma, this trapping of karma, the only way to break free, because good karma makes you stuck eating sweet fruits, bad karma makes you stuck eating bitter fruits, but either way you're stuck. Either way you are at the metaphoric table. You have to keep coming back for those fruits. And so he says the only way out, the only way beyond what is spoken about is this wheel of samsara. This birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. The only way out is to recognize you are not the doer. You are just an instrument in my hands. So that's what Anita's referring to. That teaching that we are not the doer. And there's a beautiful practice that my guru, Pujya Sadhviji, offers to people and encourages people to do each night, called introspection. And in that introspection, he says, we offer to the divine both what you could call the plus points, the good things I did, whether it's a good deed or whether it's just that I didn't get angry, and then those that you could call the minus points, whether it's that I got angry, whether it's that I did something that I'm not proud of, whatever it may be. We introspect, but then we offer both of them to the divine with the awareness that, again, I am just an instrument in your hands. We offer them both back to the divine and then go to sleep. So on that level that you could call the deepest, the truest level, yes, it is all God. We are instruments in God's hands. There's a saying we talk about nimitta matra. Nimitta matram. That instrument. And that bhav. Nimitta matram bhav. That awareness, that experience of being just an instrument. And then there's a whole other level. Here we are in human bodies, with karmic packages, with life experiences, with different challenges, different opportunities, different dharmas, different karmic journeys that we're on. And we struggle. We struggle to live truthfully. We struggle to live lovingly. We struggle to live in compassion. We struggle not to be gobbled up by anger and jealousy and greed and lust and aversion and all of these things, ignorance and ego and all of these things. We struggle not to be gobbled up by them. And they're daily struggles. We may not all struggle every day with all of those. Some of us struggle more with anger or with lust or with greed or with aversion or with judgment or with ignorance or with arrogance, whatever it may be. But we all struggle somewhere every day to keep remembering, And when you remember, there's nothing wrong with feeling happy. It's great. There should be a level of internal awareness that, hey, I made it through a day and I didn't lose my temper. Like, I didn't even want to lose my temper. It's not that I had to bite my tongue. That's real progress. Last month, I lost my temper every day, some days a couple times. Now I'm not losing my temper at all. Or at least today, I didn't lose my temper. That's great news. Today, I didn't lie. Last month, 6 months ago, I was kind of lying to get my way out of every situation. Today, I didn't lie at all. That's great progress. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with feeling good about yourself. It's actually a wonderful, motivating factor because feeling good about yourself feels good. You got up to meditate today. You didn't actually hit snooze. You actually got up. Feel good about that. You should feel good about it. Yes, on the, again, highest, deepest level, it's all God. But you know what? As far as most of our experience, it really felt like we struggled with that snooze button today. There was an urge to hit it, but we didn't. We got up, we meditated. We dragged 100 pounds, 150 pounds, 200 pounds, whatever we weigh, we dragged that body out of bed into a shower, and we sat down to meditate. Feel good about yourself. So there's different levels, and again, it's important not to think about it as beginner or advanced or higher or lower, but just the level of what you could consider ultimate truth, supreme reality. And then the level of this human incarnation, this karmic journey we're on. And just because on one level, it's all God, doesn't mean that on this level you shouldn't feel wonderful about yourself for making it through a day without telling a lie, without losing your temper, without feeling jealous, without pushing something away, literally or just in your mind. So Anita, feel good about yourself. It's wonderful. And then keep doing the things that make you feel good about yourself. As a motivating factor, it's fantastic. And just always keep remembering in the back of your mind, it's all God. And so at the end of the day, just remember to say thank you to God for all those beautiful opportunities that you had to feel good about yourself today. And let those two levels sort of meet together in that moment. Wonderful. Other questions? Yeah.
I don't feel good because I saw the security guard.
Do we have, just one second, do we have a microphone? Usually we have microphones. Microphone hai apne paas?
Yeah.
Huh?
I don't feel good because I saw the security guards hitting the kids outside, and they said they were told by the organization to do that.
Okay, so under no circumstances, I mean, this being satsang, not an administrative meeting, I'm not going to actually call the guard in and ask him who it was who told him to do something wrong. But what I can assure you, under no circumstances, for any reason, at any time, would anybody in the administration tell a guard to harm anyone, in word or in deed. But taking that onto a broader level, I'll certainly tell you something that I've noticed as an interesting struggle over the almost 30 years that I've been in India, it's changing. It's definitely better today than it was 25 years ago, but it's still a struggle. We run, for example, a lot of free schools. And getting teachers not to hit kids in school, I don't mean beat them silly, but I mean, with a ruler on the hands or on the rear end or whatever it may be. Getting teachers to not do that was such a struggle for so many years. We would tell them not to, then we would hear that they were. And you'd call the teachers in and you'd say, we've made it really clear. There is to be no hitting of any kind for any reason. And what they would say is, first of all, how in the world do you expect us to discipline them otherwise? And we would say, use your words, use other techniques. But then they would say the thing that I always found very interesting, which was, well, but I was hit in school and I turned out okay. What's the problem? And you see this in schools, you see it in homes. One of the programs that we work on is ending domestic violence against spouses, against children. And again, one of the things that we hear so frequently is people will say, well, but my parents hit me. I turned out okay. What's wrong with it? And it's an interesting subject because there are far too many situations in our world today where people think that the solution is if you slap someone or spank them or, whack their hands with a ruler, that somehow that's going to, in the long run, give you the result that you want. And far too few people are recognizing that what we're looking for is not in the moment behavior modification. Yeah, if you hit me, I'll do exactly what you want, of course. I mean, who wants to be hit? But that's not what we're looking for with our children, with our students, in our society. You don't want people living certain ways, acting certain ways just because they're terrified that if they don't, they're going to be hit. We want internally motivated, value-based, ethics-based, morality-based change. So we want children behaving in school not because they're terrified they're going to be hit, but because being disciplined is something they learn. And they learn it in other ways. And we want people abiding by a set of ethical standards, again, not because they're afraid that they're going to be physically harmed if they don't, but because that's actually what we need to move into positive and peaceful societies. So, yeah, it's a constant struggle in so many different areas, but just to reiterate, under absolutely no circumstances, for any reason, at any time, would anyone not even sanction, let alone instruct anyone to harm. Forget a human being, not a dog, not a cow. I mean, they're told, like, yes, we know the dogs are there, the cows are there, whatever it is, but even move them out lovingly. We work all the time trying to get people to, not harm the animals. So it's a process of re-education. Thank you. Yes. Namaskar. He's just bringing you the mic. Yeah.
I totally agree with you intellectually that it is Almighty who is there. And
Isko pakarlon ke liye hai na bhaiya. Kal se stand lagwa. He'll just hold it for you.
Okay, close to, okay. I intellectually understand what you said, that it is Almighty, and I try to tell myself, but I want to know the buddhi or the intellect understands that, but sometimes my emotions don't understand that. What is the relationship between buddhi and emotion?
Great.
And my emotions.
Wonderful. So buddhi is the word that we use to define intellect. And this is really, a lot of times people talk about the mind and the heart. Mind and emotions. Mind understands, emotions don't. how do we merge that intellect with emotions? I wouldn't do that. And here's why. Emotions are windows. They're windows into areas, pathways, where we still have work to do. So every time that anger arises, every time sadness arises, every time fear arises, every time resentment arises, every time envy or jealousy arises or anything arises, it's a window. A place I have some work to do. Something that is there in me that is being triggered. Why? Why is it? If you sit in a room with 15 people and one person says something or does something that could be construed as rude or obnoxious or whatever it may be, what you'll find is a couple of people will have very strong reactions to that. A few people won't even notice. They said, what? Huh? Oh, I missed it entirely. And then a group of people will have noticed it but not be bothered by it. Why is that? Because each of us has our own triggers. And these are ways of understanding the psyche. And this is when we talk about the different levels. Yes, on one hand, it's all God. Aham Brahmasmi. There is nothing but the divine. Nothing but God. This is that level that especially the teachings of Advaita Vedanta speak about. Everything else is Maya, an illusion. There is no separateness. There is nothing but Brahman, nothing but the Supreme Reality. It is all happening in Brahman. This is all a dream. And then we have this other layer over here. And I like to think about them as, again, not higher or lower, but more like the way that, the old TVs had knobs where you actually had to turn a knob. And you'd go from channel 2 to 4 to 6 to 8. Now, all of the stations were broadcasting simultaneously. It wasn't that you turned to channel 6 and suddenly the guys at NBC said, oh, wait, she wants to watch something. Okay, quickly, let's transmit. They were transmitting anyway. Everything is on all the time. It's just a matter of what channel you've turned your knob to. And so on one knob turn, which, we could call the highest truth, the ultimate truth. But then on another channel, there's a whole other truth, which is here we are in human bodies. And these human bodies have not just histories and experiences and karmic packages, but we've got these brains. And these brains, in addition to having an intellectual capacity, also have an emotional capacity. And that same capacity that brings us sadness, anger, envy, resentment, also brings us joy and gratitude, love, appreciation. And it's all just different flavors of that aspect of the mind. And rather than trying to tell ourselves all the time, this isn't real. Because it certainly feels real. When you're angry, it's really hard to say to yourself, this isn't real. And when you're feeling joy, why bother saying to yourself, this isn't real? Instead, what I would offer you is a practice of asking yourself when there is anger or pain or something that feels negative to you where you wish, oh my God, couldn't my intellect just come in here and kind of set my emotions straight? Instead of that, ask yourself, who's angry? Who's angry? Who's resentful? Who is that? Who's the I? Where is she? And then, because that'll immediately pull you out of it anyway, just that inquiry. Who's angry? You say, I'm angry. Who's the I? 10 minutes ago I was happy. Who's the I? Who's angry? The inquiry will pull the sting out of it. But then, ask yourself the second question. Who knows that I'm angry? Not who's angry, but who knows I'm angry? Who is aware that I am angry? Who's that? Who's watching to say there is anger? Who is that? And stop identifying as the one who is angry and start identifying as the one who is aware. And then what you'll notice is, oh yeah, sometimes there is a wave of anger. Oh, sometimes there's a wave of joy. And you're able to just notice it like someone who has a house on the seashore. Ah, it's high tide. Ah, it's low tide. Ah, there are big waves today. Ah, there are no waves today. And you just notice it. You're not the wave. You're the one with the house on the seashore watching the ocean. So instead of trying to control the ocean or subdue the ocean or somehow infuse the ocean with the awareness that, hey, it's not really you, it's the moon. Okay, and there's still a tsunami. So the knowledge that it's not the ocean, it's the moon doesn't really do much in the moment. But instead, you recognize that you're the one watching the tsunami, aware that there is a tsunami, rather than the one being thrown around in the tsunami, or rather than the one who is the tsunami, right? Some of us literally become tsunamis. Some of us just feel that we're being thrown around in one. But either way, just take a step back. Who's noticed? Who's watching? Who's aware? And then re-anchor yourself in that awareness rather than trying to change the wave. Wonderful. It's what we're all here for. Beautiful. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.
What for you is happiness and how to be happy?
Beautiful. What is happiness and how to be happy? So, in the almost 53 years of my life, I've spent quite a bit of time studying psychology, sort of the earlier part of my life. And then the latter part of my life I have spent in a very blessed way to be able to be steeped in spiritual traditions. In both of them, what we learn, spirituality gets it a little bit deeper, but even psychology has this same truth and awareness, which is happiness is, for most of us, the natural state. The only places where happiness is not the natural state is where in very, very, very early childhood, there was some kind of such severe trauma that it took the entire developmental process and messed the whole thing up. Otherwise, if you look at kids, young kids, what do they need to be happy? Nothing. I mean, as long as the most basic needs are met, they're fed, their diaper is changed, they've had a nap, mom is nearby. What do they need to be happy beyond that? Nothing. Literally, you put a baby on their backs and they will amuse themselves for hours with their own toes. We give presents to kids. Brightly wrapped presents. The kids are ecstatic with the box and the wrapping paper. We're always the ones saying, no, 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 that's not the gift. Open it, open it, open it. Right? The kid is super happy with just the box. We learn not to be happy as we get older. As we are taught and told more and more, number one, you can't trust your own instincts, which sadly we teach our kids a lot. No, 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 it's not time to sleep, it's time to eat. No, no, it's not time to eat, it's time to sleep. So we teach kids at a young age, like, don't trust yourself. Go with the schedule. We teach our kids that they are only as valuable and worthy as what they do. So their room is clean, their chores are done, they got good grades on an exam, they played well in soccer. We give them hugs and kisses and love and appreciation. Their room is a mess, they didn't do their chores, they failed an exam. We don't give that so much. Maybe we yell, maybe we insult them, maybe we criticize them. But whatever we do, we're certainly not giving them lots and lots of love for it. So we teach them. You better perform well, or you're not worthy of love. And then as they get older and older, we start to teach them, you should be number one, you should get this, you should have that. They watch TV commercials. They're subjected to marketing and advertising that teach them this is what you need to be happy. The point being that the older we get, the less happy we are, because the more things we need to be happy. So becoming happy is actually, I have found, a return to a state of really asking yourself all the time. And as a personal practice, this is a personal practice I'm sharing with you, is just asking yourself all the time, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Like, is the attainment of this thing, is the achievement of this thing, is it worth my happiness? And I don't mean on just a momentary level, because studying isn't always fun. Exercising isn't always fun. Eating healthy foods instead of junk foods is not always fun. But we do them because we know they're going to make me happy later on or healthy later on. But the amount of happiness that we sacrifice through the way that we think, through the way that we work, through the way that we live, through our priorities. Ask yourself all the time, is it worth it? Is this thing that I think I want, is it worth my peace? Is it worth my happiness? And what you'll find in so many cases is no. And if you ask yourself honestly, what is it that makes me happy? And why then am I blocking myself from it? You're going to come to some really deep awarenesses. So for me, happiness is really in simplicity. It's in being connected to God. It's in feeling like I am just an instrument in God's hands. Just being an instrument. You know, when I first came here, 27 and a half years ago now, when I first came, I was a graduate student in psychology. I was getting a PhD. I had graduated undergrad from Stanford University. I was an academic, and I was a good academic, and I was someone who had, achieved quite a bit academically. And when I come, I was given this beautiful opportunity to be in seva, which means in service. And I was able to be in seva to Pujya Swamiji. And the first things that he had me do, if I look back on like the seva that I was given, the very first seva I was given was they had all of these visiting cards, that we have with contact details and whatnot, and stack of hundreds of them. But all of the phone numbers had changed. The Delhi ashram phone number, the Rishikesh ashram phone number. And Pujya Swamiji had taken a pen, and he had gone through and he had corrected the phone numbers, fax number, phone number. And then he hands me the stack and he says, "Can you fix these accordingly?" Stayed up all night and did them. Brought them in the next day. He said, "You did them all?" I said, "Yeah." And I just stayed up all night and did it. And it never occurred to me not to. He hadn't said, "Get them to me by 6 o'clock the next morning." But the joy of just doing it. The next seva I was given was just his correspondence. It was in the days, we had email in LA, or the Bay Area in California. They didn't yet have email here. So it was regular letters. He would get all of these letters, and he needed responses sent. And so my seva for years was just doing his correspondence on first a manual typewriter. Raise your hand if you've ever even seen a manual typewriter. Oh wow, a lot of you. Great. Sometimes nobody has ever seen it. You've got to send people out to do Google image searches. So literally a manual typewriter. And then an electric typewriter. Where, literally you had whiteout and you would have to go in and liquid paper and then you could correct it. And I share this with you because they were the most exuberant days of my life. I wish sometimes that I could just go back to doing that. Just like whatever he needed. Visiting cards, phone numbers changed. Oh, some letters written. Whatever it was. I would go in, he'd have a file of papers, and I'd sit and he'd hand papers to me one by one with what he needed done with each paper, and I would take the file and I would go, and as quickly as I could get the papers done meant that I got to go back with my file and hand them back and get another. And it was exuberant. Even though the actual work that I was doing was, you could say, so far beneath me. People couldn't believe it. They were like, "You're doing what?" Not people here. People here, of course, understood. But my friends back in America, "You're doing what? Typing letters? Correspondence? Manual typewriter? You're doing what?" They couldn't believe it. Then I got to design some brochures. I mean, it was that kind of thing for years. And they were some of the happiest days of my life. Why? Because I was simply, I never had to think, I never had to plan. It was just an instrument in the hands of the divine through the Guru. And as the years have gone by, and as my seva has changed form so much, I try in my mind to go back every day to that place of just. Can I just be that instrument? Because it's so easy for the mind to get in with, I want this. I want that. Why not this? Why not that? And to just every day clear my mind and to hear that voice within. You know, it was so easy with Pujya Swamiji. It was an external voice saying, do this, do that. Now in so many cases, I have to hear that voice within. But the aim is there. Because that's where happiness comes. It's not from, how do I want it? What do I want? But it's about, how can I empty myself so completely that I can just hear that voice of the divine saying to me, do this, do that, do this. And that there's nothing that is above you, nothing beneath you, nothing that is worthy, nothing that is unworthy, nothing that is this or that, nothing like that. It's just about being in that alignment and that flow. And for me, that's happiness. Is just feeling like a channel through which the divine flows. And so how to get there? Like that. And that doesn't mean that you can't earn a living while doing it. It doesn't mean that you can't have plans and have a family and have a career and have a business and have this and have that. Of course you can. But just check yourself every day with how much of this is my will saying, this is what I want, this is how I want it, this is how it should be, versus how much of it is just responding to that flow of the divine, whether it comes from the literal voice of a guru, whether it comes from hearing that voice within, however it comes. But to allowing that to be your north that is pulling the compass of your life toward it, rather than letting your will or your own concept or your ideas, because then we get frustrated. Because guess what? The world doesn't dance according to your tune. And then we try to make it dance according to our tune, and then it doesn't. And then we're frustrated. And when it does, we're happy. But it's very tenuous and it's very short-lived. And so I have found the deepest happiness in surrender. Just surrendering to that will. And surrender is not giving in or giving up. It is actually the deep awareness that when I align myself with the flow of the divine, not the flow of my ego, not the flow of my will, when I actually align myself with that flow of the divine, all that I want flows right through me. Thank you. Beautiful. We're going to have to bring satsang to a close for this evening, but we'll start with your question in the back tomorrow. We'll take yours as our first one tomorrow and then yours. We'll now be having satsang every night. So have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. And so So much love to you.